Jai, Srila Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. The world's biggest fan of Balarama and Nityananda. Sometimes Gurudev would say, he'd say what Nityananda Prabhu eats for breakfast. He said, some muri but with some fried eggplant and, you know. And I was saying like, Maharaj, how do you know that?
He knows.
Jai, Srila Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. He loves Balaram so much, the temple he made in Vrindavan called Krishna-Balaram-mandir. And think about it. In every temple he made around the world, there was always like Radha and Krishna in the center. And then in some, for the most part, and then sometimes Gaur Nitai inside, Jagannath, Subhadra, Balabhadra. So in Vrindavan, you would think, you know, Krishna, Radha and Krishna, this whole movement sort of centered on Radha and Krishna. Radha and Krishna deities installed everywhere. So, of course, there he also installs Radha, Krishna deity, Radha Shyama Sundar, and Lalita Vishaka, very beautiful deities. And ones like Gaur Nitai. Mm-hmm. But what was interesting is they were not in the central altar. In the central altar is Krishna and Balaram. And the very place that he established that temple was Raman Reti, said to be the place where Krishna and Balaram would have many of their childhood pastimes. Right? The sands of Raman Reti. And when we had the opportunity to go there, when there were just like rebar sticking out of the soil, because now it's so popular and there's so many, but in those days, I can say really, the trees were in the early morning filled with peacocks. You know, making that beautiful sound that they make that you can hear here early in the morning. If you're up early enough, it's from that direction. That's all I can say. We haven't found them yet, what to speak of liberated them. but no, if they're meant to come, they will come, you know. But I think they're crying out in separation from Giriraj Govardhan and Gandharva Govinda Sundarji, their divine associates. But I remember Srila Prabhupada was giving a lecture there, and his, like Guru Maharaj and Gurudev and the Chaitanya Saraswat Mat, Prabhupada also had his ways of knowing what we're all doing. No matter how secretive you thought you were, or, you know, devotees sneaking off to Loy Bazaar for very, you know, he knows everything. So one of the things, and there's some excuse, because as Guru Maharaj said, and Gurudev, Krishna's favorite food is milk or anything related to milk, butter, yogurt, ghee, sandesh, rasgola, burfi, srikhand, kheer, you know. So we're always very attentive to extract the finer points. So we heard that Rabri was the specialty of Vrindavan. We're always going toward the essence. So all the devotees think, wow, we know what is sandesh, we know what is gulab jamun, pera, another Vrindavan sweet. If you take pera, your mind will immediately go to Vrindavan. But we heard, this Rabri, we cannot conceive, you know, what is Rabri? And it's, you could say, I mean, it may be an operatic explanation, but basically you're cooking milk down and then taking the solids to the side and then cooking it down, then cooking it down more and more and more and more until sometimes it looks like high quality old style paper, and then mixed with more milk, and it's just the amount of milk that is condensed into one palmful of Rabri is achintya, is inconceivable. So that should be a warning or a cautionary tale that, like, so if you take this, like, how can you digest that quantity of milk? So if you overindulge, you may exceed your digestive capacity. Let's put it that way.
So polite, Mom.
So, like, we're all, Prabhupada's looking out at this group and everyone's like, everybody's suffering. And sometimes he would say something very simple like, we are all suffering. And everyone go like, yes. Like, But, so, somehow his divine thinking would move in a particular direction. And he managed to combine the Rabri, a prescription, palliative description for overindulgence, quote the Bhagavatam, justify the building of like all of this in one. So, and I don't know if it just happened to be the verse of the day or, so the verse in the Bhagavatam, it's in the first canto, and it's in the Narada to Vyas section. Because as you recall, he's saying, although it's inadvertent, what did you give to the world that spoiled everything? Religion. Right. Meaning, people will take your religious prescriptions and remain bound and attached. Right. You think, so what will be the solution? Religion, but the new kind of religion, where you reveal to everyone that the prospect they have in the Krishna world and the full spectral range of loving relationships, including Madhura Rasa, in that domain. What the heart is actually hankering for. Prati anga lagi kande prati anga more. What every atom of our being is hankering for can only be fully realized and satisfied in the Krishna world. Radha and Krishna, Krishna and Balaram, Nanda, Yashoda, Lalita Vishaka, Sridham, Sudam, and Subal, and everyone. And then he says this very interesting verse. It comes after the 10 verses that are sort of the Narada Bhagavatam to Vyas, that Vyas expands to Sukadev, and Sukadev to Pariksit, to Sutta Goswami, and so. He says, Amayo Yaschabu, and Narada's giving some justification, but he said, Amayo Yaschabhutanam jayate yena suvrita, tadeva hyamayam dravyam, na punati chikirtsitam. He says, does not a thing which was the cause of a disease become the cure when applied therapeutically? It's a very beautiful verse. And then Prabhupada related. So he said, so if one overindulges in milk sweets, he said, then the cure is also another form of milk. You take the yogurt with the black pepper and some lime and some chia, the flat rice, and you take this, and He's saying, but he said, if someone says, there are so many temples in Vrindavan, and that person could be Prabhupada, who himself said there are 5,000 temples in Vrindavan. So he said, someone could ask, what need is there for another one? Right? He said, but like every family, they can have a child. He said, they have a right to have one temple. Of course, he had over 108 all over the world. But he was quoting this verse saying, alluding to, and without any disrespect, but maybe the proper Krishna conception is not being broadcast. The deities are there, no doubt, and we go there with folded palms to this day, and revere those whom are entrusted with the seva. But conceptually, what is being distributed, that is another thing, right? Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur distributing the substance from the melted heart of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Sri Gaudiya Math, and later ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math, and other missions from the disciples, the faithful disciples of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, giving what Guru Maharaj called Chaitanya Saraswat, the Mahaprabhu's Krishna conception, come down to the Saraswatas, meaning the followers of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And that current Saraswati, like the Saraswati, it's everything Guru Maharaj said is like so perfect and more perfect and most perfect. Because it's also where is Vyasa's ashram located? Really on the banks of the Saraswati. The badari is that jujube fruit, nigama kalpataror galitambala, and this current is coming down from there, and so Guru Maharaj says like that, and the Vani is the current, and we said the other day, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the mystic transmission, the Rupa-nuga Dara, again means that current, and they say, when Saraswati Thakur said, no, I want to hear not the sweet song, but that person in whom the Dara of Sri Rupa is flowing. He's the Rupa-nuga Dara, that is Srila Sridhar Maharaj, to hear from him. And then that current flowing, so on many levels. So there, Srila Prabhupada said, so he simultaneously was speaking on the Bhagavatam, giving a cure to the devotees, justifying the building of yet another temple in Vrindavan, and then on the central altar, whom? Krishna and Balaram. So, and that Balaram, like the other day, I myself said, there is nothing other than Krishna. From one point of view, and by that I mean to say, this is not like those who think there's some bad, horrible, thing that's operating independently of divinity. No, even the penal institution as a department of the government, it all goes back to Krishna. So in that sense, everything's coming from Krishna. But we'll now say it in this way, even the so-called non-Krishna. So we think in general, non-Krishna, that cannot be good. But Guru Maharaj's vision is very broad. Yet there's the Bhagavatam addresses these issues, saying everything directly and indirectly. So there's, in the non-Krishna section, there's the obvious, undesirable, the Mayic illusion, the material existence, forgetfulness of Krishna. That's not a good thing. But on the other side, Guru Maharaj can talk of, he says, the first non-Krishna or other than Krishna is Baladev. Right? And by extension, Mahadev, Shiva. And he said, so there's out and out antagonism, atheism toward Krishna conception. But then there's what you could say like the noble opposition. In one instance, Mahadev, Shiva, but today we choose to speak of the glories of Sri Balaram. So Guru Maharaj is saying, he can be opposed to Krishna on certain things, but in a delightful way. So Guru Maharaj like to mention that, as an example, sometimes Uddhava and Krishna, they're discussing some diplomatic solution to a situation, right? and on very fine points, nuance, how to appease all the different parties, the egos involved with their subsequent history. And listening is Balaram, Haladar, Mushalapa, who's carrying his club on his shoulder. And he will inveigh and say like, what's all the discussion about? With my club, I can solve this matter instantly. So that's showing like he has another perspective on things. And on that note, I never committed this to memory, but it's one of the favorite slokas of Srila Gurudev from the Garga-samhita. The Baladev pranam says, Spura damala kiritam kinkini kankanarham chaladalaka kopalam kundala sri mukhabjam tuhina giri manogyam nila megam baradyam halamushala bishalam kamopalam samide. Kinkini means like ankle bells. So he wears ankle bells on his feet, so they're making that charming sound. And his beautiful lotus face says, Nila Megambarajam, he's wearing the blue garments, Halamushala Bisham, and he's carrying the club. And he's and one's friend, like he's brother of Krishna, but he's elder brother of Krishna. One of Krishna's name is Ramanuja. So it means the Anuja of Rama, the little brother, born, So, and Krishna conception always contradicts mundane rational thought, because you would think like, well, wait, and this is why you can't figure this out with your, Gyane Prayasam Udapasanamanta Eva. We just need to hear from Stane Sita Shrutikatam Tanam, from the Lord himself, from Ananta, who's broadcasting the glories of the Lord in this world. So you would think rationally that, all right, you said Krishna is the original, then Balarama, if he comes second, then he would be younger. No, to stop that kind of thinking, Balaram is the elder brother of Krishna. Krishna comes after him, and what do we hear? That appearing first in Devaki, transferred to Rohini. And one explanation given is that because Ananta, his unlimited service attitude, he will leave behind the Sringasan for Krishna to appear. Wherever Krishna appears, there have to be a Sringasan and other divine paraphernalia. So it's that the womb of Devaki is 10% pure beyond imagination to begin with, that Baladev can appear there, and then sort of getting everything ready for Krishna. Like when we have these festivals, we get everything ready. There's a certain amount of positioning and auspicious paraphernalia being assembled that the Lord is going to appear. So one of the meanings of Ananta means he has unlimited service aspirations. So, and I've mentioned this, that because it parallels certain types of love songs or love poetry, where the one beloved to the other is saying, I want to be the ground beneath your feet, the garments that decorate your... They're expressing how much love they have, that they just want to envelop this other person and serve them in every possible way. So we can say, well, is there any validity to that sentiment in the original? And there must be. In fact, it's only in the original where this can be actually realized. And it's personified in the devotional aspirations and realizations of Balaram or Ananta Dev. So we're told the Shingasan, the umbrella, the sacred thread, and so many other types of divine paraphernalia. Right? And so in Charitamrita it says, Ekala Ishwara Krishna Arsabritya. And it's interesting that this should come in the Balaram section. Saying, Krishna, like Ishvara Parama Krishna. Right? But here it says, Ekala is, Krishna's the only, you can say Ishvara, but it really means, controller, but ultimately enjoyer. And it says, our subrit, everyone else is a servitor. And we say, everyone? You mean, what about the Vishnu Tattva? What about Balaram himself? Doesn't he have pastimes of enjoyment? We hear sometimes of the Varuni and other things. All in the mood of a servitor. Sanatana goes, when Krishna's gone, doesn't he return to Vrindavan and engage in rasa-lila? Guru Maharaj says, Sanatana Goswami Prabhu says, and it's as an offering from within his heart to Krishna. He can even serve on that level. So in the beginning of Charitamritam, we're discussing Nityananda Ram. So we say the first other than Krishna. And we've been told many times, Swarat, Krishna is independent. Also that Tasya Karyam Karanam Javidyate. He has nothing to do. He's playing on his divine flute, playing with the Braja Gopis, the Gopas and the Gopis. And then the first other than Krishna, Balaram, how shall we see or understand him? Everything comes from him. We're told, the quadruple expansions, Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradumna, and Aniruddha, the second quadruple, not to be confused with the first quadruple. No. And then what? The Purusha avatars. Means Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, Kiradakshaya. This is said in the beginning of Charitamrita. All Nityananda Ram. Says before that, what's been described as Brahman and the Upanishads, Paramatma and Bhagavan, Sri Chaitanya Dev. But now we're talking about, how does this all work? How does Nityananda Ram, Balaram, remember, Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya, and by extension, Shiva, everything coming from Balaram. Right? As part of, and what is it? His service. And together with Yogamaya, they're casting and scripting Krishna Lila and Gaura Lila and Ram Lila. So, and as the expanse of Ananta, all the universes resting on his heads. And what does Rupa Goswami say about those heads? So imagine, innumerable planets, universes, everything, resting on the heads of Ananta. And then what did he say? And when the flute song of Krishna penetrates the coverings of the universes and enters the ear hole of Ananta, his heads are swaying. Bogendrama Gurnayam. He's intoxicated with the flute song of Krishna. Right. So, Guru says everything from Shanta up to Vatsalya Rasa covered by Balaram. Madhura Rasa, specifically Radharani and her group. And if someone saying, even the great Balaram, he cannot participate there. Guru said, and the mood of Balaram cannot enter into there. But as Ananga Manjari, Radharani's little sister, also participating in another aspect. Participating in Krishna's pastimes in every conceivable, and we should say inconceivable way, actually. Because the conceivable ways are, we were saying this earlier, we deal with the inconceivable. Achintya-shakti. Jiva Goswami said, like the ante-up for Krishna conception is Achintya-shakti. Then you can enter in that. If you don't accept Achintya-shakti, you can't you have no access to these things. So that Balaram, who's the elder brother of Krishna, so there's a certain level of Sakya, the higher aspect of Sakya Rasa friendship, but elements of Vatsalya rasa, that paternal aspect of protection. We're told that Yashoda has entrusted the care of Krishna to Balaram. We know Yashoda cannot bear to, every day when Krishna goes to the forest for his pastimes with the cowherd boys, they some descriptions, like Brihad Bhagavatamritam and elsewhere, say like, he starts to go, then she runs and brings him back, then they have to do it again, and she brings, it goes like, somehow they finally get Krishna to go to the forest. And it's only with her, she has so much faith and trust in Balaram that he will protect Krishna, that nothing will happen to Krishna, which is inconceivable to her, that any. But what is the nature of Krishna-lila? That one thing after another by Baladev and Yogamaya will go wrong. In the most beautiful, perfect place beyond the world, Goloka Vrindavan, to enhance the mood, intensity, feeling, ecstasy, everything of the pastimes, something in opposition to that will rise in the form of so many asura, and the play of Krishna and Balaram, because sometimes they're playing, and we know, Krishna, this doesn't leave this room, but he's a notorious cheater, thief. These things are known. And so even in the play, sometimes Krishna's cheating. They're human-like pastimes. And sometimes Baladev is objecting to that. And we're told one time Krishna cheated in the play, and then Baladev slapped Krishna and told him not to cheat anymore. But then Krishna's running to Mother Yashoda saying, Dadaji slapped me, look. Then Mother Yashoda's chastising Balaram, and then Gurumar said, so Balaram sometimes, little brother, taking him up, like, we need to talk. Taking him and say, sometimes in this play of ours, and you know what Krishna Lila is like, you're Krishna. So there could be some intense exchange. Every time something happens, you don't have to tell Mother. Yes, Balaji. So how sweet are their dealings. And in that play, and sometimes it's mentioned, in other words, it is, it's an ocean of ecstatic joy is its default position. But something opposed to all the play and everything must come along to sort of interrupt it going in that direction and then take it in a new direction. Then they can break for lunch. And something will happen during lunch, like the Brahma Vimohan Lila, which, by the way, happened on this day. Because it's mentioned on Balaram's birthday, he stayed home his mom wanted to have like some particular birthday celebration there, so he wasn't present when the Brahma Vimohan Lila. It's identified. But we're told also, so they're playing Krishna and the cowherd boys, and one day in that Vrindavan where all the, the kujat kokila hangsa sarasagana kirne moyura kule, the peacocks, the kokils, the bees, all the beautiful birds, the sounds of the jamuna, the lotus flowers. So, the bees are, the nectar of the glories of Krishna are dripping from their mouths as they madly praise Krishna and Balaram. And Krishna will deflect the praise to Balaram. Trees are giving dandavats, flowing with nectarine substances, tears of ecstasy flowing in them. And Krishna will say, oh, Balaram, look how the trees are receiving you. They're so happy to see you. And they're offering their fruits to you. And so Krishna is the biggest fan of Balaram. as Mahaprabhu of Nityananda, and vice versa. But we're told on one of these days in Vrindavan, the cowherd boys, they decide they're always playing different games, and then Krishna thinks of a particular game that they can play and says that the losers will have to carry the victors on their shoulders. And so all the cowherd boys there, and on that day it's also the birthday of one of the cowherd boys, had to stay home. You know. So this demon, Asura, Pralambasura, he takes the form of that cowherd boy who didn't show up that day. And so Krishna, looking at all the different cowherd boys and saying, so here's the next game we're going to play. And then Krishna makes eye contact. And in his mind, Krishna's saying like, how shall we kill you? That'll be fun. But he didn't say that, but he thought it. But he said, anyway, here's how the game works. But I got my eye on you. And so they play the game, and as it turns out, that in this particular game, Baladev's group won, and so they have to carry the victors. Pralambasura is thinking like, he didn't want to test Krishna, because he's saying, Krishna really, who knows what's going on in there. And he thought Balaram would be an easier target. Big mistake. Didn't know he was the first other than Krishna. That sometimes we're told, the only difference between Krishna and Balaram is like their color. They look slightly different. Balaram isn't generally playing the flute. Very minute differences. Balaram's as much Krishna as you could be. Right? So bad choice. So but he thinks if to kill Balaram, I should take him away from everybody else. So he starts running off into a corner and then expanding himself and then turning into his original Asuric form, this massive mountain-like form. And Balaram is looking down, and he's famous for the fist. And we're told the way Indra's thunderbolt strikes a mountaintop and just shatters it to pieces, with this, Balaram smashes him on his collarbone. The blood flows out and the demon collapses on the ground. The gods shower flowers. The cowherd boys are singing and dancing. And it's time for lunch for Krishna, Balaram, and the cowherd boys. And those cowherd boys will say like, we heard there's one really nice forest nearby where there's these tal fruits. Any Bengalis in the audience? Tal. They have it here as well.
I've seen it here.
Mangal Maharaj knows how to prepare it the best. So, and I can only describe it. It looks like mango pudding infused with coconut, sweet coconut. It's extraordinary. But so they're saying, and Krishna and Balaram, oh, well, let us go. And he said, well, there's one problem. There's this ass there named Dhenuk and his ass clan, and they're sort of commandeering the whole area. They won't let anybody in. No sages, no cowherd boy, nobody. They've taken over. Yeah. So Krishna and Balaram decide to rectify. They've descended Puritranaya Sadhunam Vinashaya Judaskaram for this very purpose, to reclaim the tal fruits. As Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in the Chaitanya Shikshamritam, that he draws these parallels between all these pastimes. They're Yogamayic real. Still, Bhaktivinoda Thakur can extract from there. And he's saying, Putana, the first demon, represents false guru. like comes to nurse, but with a poisonous substance. So he said the sadhaka must overcome that. And here, he says, Dhenukasura, this ass and his ass clan, he said, represents mundane religious administrators who, saying, they think they're the sole possessors of the sweet essence of religion, he said, which they themselves cannot taste or appreciate, but they've set themselves as a bulwark or, to prevent anyone else from tasting that. It's very interesting. But Krishna and Balaram to the rescue. So when Balaram comes in and he has one of the Bala, this inconceivable strength, right? And so he goes up to the tall tree, he's shaking the palm, all the fruits are coming down. And Dhenukasura is saying, what, who is this? And then he sees Baladev, all the fruits are coming down. And he becomes enraged. And because he's an ass, he has very strong hind legs. So he's like working up the strength. That's what I'll do, make him maneuver and then like kick him with my hind legs. And I mean, if you're in Krishna-lila, you have to have some extraordinary prowess, right? So whatever we can conceive of, add the inconceivable symbol there, ad infinitum. As Baladev must have a formidable opponent. So he's kicking him, kicks him in the chest, nothing for Baladev. Baladev grabs those hind legs because he conveniently put them both together to try and make the kick extra potent. He grabs both of them, starts whirling him around. And what do you call it? This is centrifugal. That means it's so fast, then the life form is leaving. He's liberating the soul in the process and throws them up in the top of a tree. It hits another tree, another tree, another tree. All the other asses are incensed. They attack Krishna and Balaram left and right. They're spinning him around, throwing him up in the trees. The trees are crashing, the fruits are coming down. And it's like, although it's in one sense like a devastated area, a bloody mess, but in the Bhagavatam it says, it looks very beautiful because it's Vrindavan. And the gods, again, they're showering flowers, singing and dancing and celebrating these pastimes. And it's mentioned there, just as an aside. It's saying, so when Balaram, this Pralambasura, he's trying to hold up Balaram and saying, Balaram is holding up everything. We said Dharani Dharendra. And there it's mentioned very interesting for those who are fans of string theory. It says, otam potom means a weave, like so many strings going this way and so many strings going that way, and all the planets and everything. That's the comparison given to how Balaram, he's holding all the planets, the universes, everything, saying, so what's not possible? This is a nothing matter for him, or as Gurudev would say, a snidging matter. Nothing for Balaram, but it's to give yet another cause to celebrate his glory. But perhaps the most glorious aspect, and as alluded to in the beginning of Charitamritam, is Nityananda Ram. As Krishna expands and we're reminded, when we say avatars, saying they have their position in the spiritual world, it's when they descend here they're known as avatars. But whether in Krishna Lila and then Ram Lila and various pastimes, but in Gaur Lila, it is the sweetest that Nityananda Prabhu appears as the son of Hadai Oja. And he's the delight of everyone, and playing Krishna-lila, Ram-lila, pastimes of the boys, but then a sannyasi comes, is not clearly indicated. Some say Madhavendra Puri, as I said that to Gurudev once. He said, yes, some say. And asked for a brahmachari assistant. It's like asking Hadai Oja for his heart. And his dear mother, Padmavati, and she said, Prabhu, whatever you decide. It's just inconceivable. And then with his head bowed, his heart ripped from him, he gives Nityananda Prabhu, the sannyasi. Nityananda goes on tour of the holy places. But his, and Hadai Pandit, we're told, cried for 3 months, creating the, what is it? Hadai Kunda. There, it's still in Birachandrapur. Ekachakra has another name. But, so there's a pond from the tears of separation from Nityananda Prabhu. And he's visiting all these holy places. He comes to Vrindavan, and he later says that, first we're told, like a child, he's going to Raman Reti and recalling where they had the pastimes of Krishna-Balaram, and like a child rolling in the sand and the dust, and showing so many confidential, ecstatic emotions. But he himself later was saying, but I saw all the Shingasans covered, like in cloth. And I said, where is Krishna? And they said, he's in Gaudadesh, in Navadvip. So really, all of this time, he's waiting for Nimai Pandit to come to the point of where he's going to begin his Nam Sankirtan pastimes with the devotees. And so simultaneously, that's going on in Vrindavan. So he's making his way towards Navadvip. In Navadvip, we're told Nimai Pandit, all these ecstatic pastimes with the devotees, the Srivas Sangam, the Kirtan at the house of Srivas, and all the different pastimes with the devotees in Navadvip. But there's one thing he's feeling a little sad about, like, where is Nitai? Then it'll be perfect. We've got everyone else assembled here. We're just waiting for Nityananda. And then he tells the devotees, oh, I had a dream that a great Mahajan is coming. This great personality. And he's riding on a chariot, and there's a flag with the palm tree on it, and he's, in deep Krishna prem. He doesn't say who he's in. This great personality. I can feel it, And he sends Srivas Thakur and Haridas Thakur to find him. And Vrindavan Das Thakur will later mention, of course they can find Nityananda and recognize him. But Mahaprabhu is teaching something very important here. So even Srivas Thakur and Haridas Thakur cannot find him. So the glories of Nityananda are revealed by Mahaprabhu himself. Through Mahaprabhu, you can recognize the glories of Nityananda. But in the interim, Nityananda appeared at the house of Nandanacharya. And Mahaprabhu, I'm saying, I have this dream. And he's saying, where is Nimai Pandit? Where is he? Said 10, 20 times. He just keeps saying, where is Nimai Pandit? Where is Nimai Pandit? So he's at the house of Nandanacharya. And Mahaprabhu, after a 9-hour search by Srivas Thakur and Haridas Thakur, and they say, we can't find this personality that you described. And we're told Nimai Pandit, little smiling, saying, follow me. Then he takes them to underscore this point that, as we say, you cannot separate Gaur and Nityananda. Vrindavan Das even says, those who, they sing the glories of Gaurachandra, then when they hear about Nityananda, they're running. He goes so far as to say, if you have Vishnu Bhakti and you do not appreciate Balaram, Baladev, Nityananda, you'll lose it. You'll lose everything. So Nimai Pandit takes them, his devotees, to meet Nityananda, and Nityananda, seeing his worshipful Lord, he's drinking the beauty of Mahaprabhu with his eyes. It appears that he's licking or tasting the beauty with his tongue. It's a total sensual experience for Nityananda Prabhu. Right? And when he sees the beautiful lotus eyes of Nimai Pandit, he says, do lotus flowers actually exist? Is there some other kind of lotus? Because nothing can compare to the lotus that I'm seeing in the eyes of Nimai Pandit. And for each, he's just drinking in the beauty and saying, his pearl-like teeth. And he's saying, the moon wants to have a glimpse of Gaurachandra to see his beauty. And he's saying, how beautiful are his toenails? Millions and millions of gems assembled together would not compare to the beauty and the radiance of the toenails of Nimai Pandit. So while he's seeing that, and he's stunned to see the beauty of Gaurachandra, of Nimai Pandit, thinking, reflecting on their pastimes. Mahaprabhu gives an indication to Srivas Thakur, like, sing some sloka. And what is that? So they have to not speak. So he's saying, Barha pidam natabara bapukarneo karnikaram bibrad basa kanakapisam by jayantim chamalam run venu urdhaya sudhaya purayan gopa vrinde vrindaranyam swapara ramanam pravishad gita kirti. And it's a sloka that's really from the angle of vision of the Braja Gopis, what they see when they see Krishna and Balaram entering the forest every day. But mainly description of Krishna. Barha pidam, that he's got the peacock feather, above his divine lotus face. Narabara, he looks like an actor, dancer, movie star, before movies were invented. But like that type of riveting persona, the kind of flowers that are decorating his lotus, Bibrad Basa, Kanaka Kavisam, the Vaijayantim garland made of all the different types of rainbow-like color, the flowers of Vrindavan. Then run venu urdhaya sudhaya purayan. And Krishna, when he plays his flute, think the nectar from the lips of Krishna enter the flute, and then they create a nectar shower in the atmosphere. Sudhaya purayan gopa vrinde, surrounded by all these cowherd boys, principal of whom is Balaram. Brindaranyam swapara ramanam pravishad gita kirti. And then Guru Maharaj's word, the earth is shivering in conjugal ecstasy at the touch of the lotus feet of Krishna. And hearing this, Nityananda collapses to the ground and he can't control himself. And he's crushing all the devotees saying, Krishna, protect him. They think he's going to break every bone in his body of his divine form. Ecstatic tears are coming, waves of ecstasy, until at last he finds himself in the lap of Nimai Pandit. And then he calms down. And he's a little bit in the fainted position, and then starts awakening. And we're told Gadadhar Pandit, who we know by extension, Radharani, sees this and starts smiling. And she says, oh, that's Ananta, who likes to serve in all these different capacities. Sometimes as Balaram, Krishna, resting in the lap of Balaram and saying, look at his ego has been defeated. The ego of Ananta has been defeated, because now, look, what do we see? That Ananta is now lying in the lap of Nimai Pandit. A total role reversal. And what is it like? When Lakshman was shot by the arrow and had to be cradled in the lap of Ramachandra, and Vrindavan Das Thakur says beautifully here, voicing the sentiments of Gadadhar Pandit, that here Nityananda has been shot by the arrow of Krishna Prem. And that's how he's entered this incapacitated condition and fallen into the lap of Nimai Pandit. And then the various devotees, they give their opinions on what they're seeing before them. And one of them says, I don't know a lot, but it looks like Ananta Shesh is taking, but I'm not sure. Anyway, so that Nityananda, and then Mahaprabhu's, just to conclude, singing the glories of Nityananda. And this is the point. And he's saying, it's only through you that anyone can have devotion to Krishna. And now that I'm seeing you and beholding you, I can also get devotion to Krishna. It's only by your grace, as we will hear in the song, Heno Nitai Bine Bai Radha Krishna Paitenai Nitai Koruna Habe Braje Krishna Braje Radha Krishna Pave. So Mahaprabhu himself is saying these very things, just extolling the glories of Nityananda, and only by the grace of Nityananda, because we're always telling, only by the grace of the devotee can you substantially get Krishna consciousness. And those who say they are my devotees directly are not my devotees, those who are the devotees of my devotees. So Mahaprabhu himself devoted to Nityananda Prabhu. Then Nityananda, after hearing all this praise, he says that, yes, I found the Shingasan, and Vrindavan all covered, and they said, Krishna's come here, and he said, and I've heard that the most sinful can be saved if they come to Navadvip and get your shelter. Hare Krishna. So, and so I will conclude, and then Madhusudan Maharaj will say some things. Gurudev said, everyone knows that Guru Maharaj is Rupa Goswami's man, as we said the other day. He said, then why Rupa Goswami man always saying, Dial Nitai, Dial Nitai, Dial Nitai, for the foundation that everything is based on the grace and the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu. Whatever your Krishna conception may be, if it does not have a sound foundation on the mercy of Nityananda, then it will topple over. It cannot be sustained. It will crash. Right? So that only on the strongest foundation is the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, then something very substantial, Krishna conception, can be built there. So, Nityananda Ram Avirbhav Mahamahutavatiti Ki Jai. Whereas if you'll say a few words, and then we'll sing the songs.
Maharaj, I can first say some words of appreciation because we are hearing from you what you have heard from our masters, and Maharaj, when we hear from you, you are very transparent and giving what they have given in an understandable way for us all. So first of all, Maharaj, words of appreciation and so much. And about Nityananda, about the Baladev, Balaram's appearance day today, then this is also a good day in Gurudev's book. He's always basically happy on this day, it is a good day. And he mentions how Balaram is the original guru also in this context. And as we've been hearing, very quickly, Gurudev would talk then about Nityananda Prabhu, because Balaram is exactly Krishna, but he is for Krishna. This kind of relationship. And so he's doing everything for Krishna, and as we've heard, doing all sorts of things, even Krishna's chair, all kind of things. Then Balaram is making these kind of arrangements. But then Balaram, when he takes, not only takes a form, but in his form as Nityananda, as Guru Maharaj says, inconceivably 2 rooms of the highest quarter. We can't separate, one is higher or one is lower in such a thing. Inconceivably that is so. So Balaram as Nityananda, then everything that he's doing everything for Krishna. He's trying to now serve to Krishna in the mood of Radharani, in the mood of distributing devotion. So then Balaram, what is his service now? Not coming to give a tap to somebody's head and let it land, as Gurudev said, 100 miles away. But instead using that power to try to give the faith in the fallen souls that Mahaprabhu is everything, and that Mahaprabhu, you worship Mahaprabhu, you will get Radha Krishna. And if you take the name of Mahaprabhu, then you will be sold to me. And as he's shown in so many ways in his form as Balaram, he can do anything without any diplomacy also. He can just do anything. So without diplomacy, he's coming to the most fallen souls and taking that position, rolling on the ground in front of their doors. Instead of knocking their heads off, he's rolling on the ground in front of their doors and saying, take Mahaprabhu's name. So the aspect that Balaram, he is the original guru, is also very relevant for us, because on this day it is Balaram's appearance day. And we asked to Gurudev, because at the beginning of articles and books, etc., we always see Shri Guru Gaurangau Jayataha, or in English, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. But the question came, shouldn't we also be putting all glories to Shri Guru, Shri Nityananda and Shri Gauranga in this way? And Guru Maharaj saying, no, Nityananda is the original Guru. So Guru, the whole Guru principle, all Guru is included there. Our Guru is included there. So this way, Balaram, he's coming to serve Krishna, and he's coming making all arrangements for service to Krishna. He's not doing everything himself, and in fact he expands to serve Krishna in all these quadruple expansions and next quadruple expansions, and then all kinds of things.
And what you said, just in the Guru Maharaj said, Madhva saying, there's the thing, the devata of the thing, like air, vayu, the devata of the thing. Then he said, Guru Tattva, and each one's going into, and in the heart, Guru Tattva is Balaram. In Balaram's heart, Radha Govinda Chidlilamritam. So within the heart, Guru Tattva goes to the heart of Baladev, and the heart of Baladev, Radha Govinda.
Beautiful, wonderful things. So this day also, it is a very wonderful day in remembrance of our opportunity to have to know anything at all about these things, and to have the connection with the highest quarter through our Sri Guru Vaga. So this angle we can say a little bit in that way. And there is the composition, the Nityananda Dvadashakam of Srila Guru Maharaj, that I think every Balaram appearance day, as far as I can remember, Gurudev would himself lead, or he would have somebody reciting. But actually he, I think, always recited that verse in my presence.
Yes.
When we were with him.
Do you have it
those
there?
verses? Oh, we do, yes.
Why not recite it now?
Ma, should I recite the English or the Sanskrit?
I think, I mean...
What was the first line? Oh, yes, I have, Marsh. I have right here. Yo nanto nanta.
Let me see, where is that?
It is, well, it depends which songbook you're using there. If it's a yellow one that they're using, page 300. Or I have it here, Marsh. You can read directly.
Well, let me see. No, I think I have it here too.
Yes, it's in the songbook too, as well as in the...
Page 300.
Yeah, in the yellow songbook. And actually, Marsh, for a series of mornings here, we did recite this for maybe 5 or 6 mornings, trying to get familiar with the meter. And actually, we were following Gurudev, a recording of Srila Gurudev chanting this. But I'm mentioning this because this Dvadashakam, these 12 verses, this is giving the understanding of what's behind what we see as Nityananda, what's behind what we see as Balaram. Can take them easily as one of us, ordinary persons, if you like, with some special power. But this is giving the explanation that really we're dealing with the higher world, the spiritual world. And actually this morning we read from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila chapter 5. And that also in the mat would be chanted on this day, but by the devotees in the temple.
Right, how about this?
Yes.
Because I want to participate too.
We can all read it
I know.
together, perhaps.
No.
Oh, no.
I'll read the Sanskrit and then you read the English.
This sounds like a good arrangement. At least in the sense of the Sanskrit part.
Okay, and we'll do them one at a time.
Yes, Maharaj.
So this is the Sriman Nityananda Dvadashakam. 12 pairs, you read the English.
12 prayers revealing the ontological position and pastimes of Lord Nityananda Prabhu by Srila Bhakti Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj.
Yo nanta nanta bhaktraya niravadi hari sankirtanam sambidate yo vadate daritrim shirasi niravadi kudra duli kaneva yashesha chatra sayasana vasana vidai sevate yadarta Sri Nityananda Chandram Bhaja Bhaja Satatam Gaura Krishna Pradamtam.
Lord Nityananda's representation as Ananta Shesh possesses unlimited mouths which propagate and glorify Lord Hari's holy names and attributes. Ananta Shesh constantly holds the weight of the earth planet upon his innumerable hoods, as if it were an insignificant particle of dust. Ananta Shesh serves the Lord in several ways, manifesting himself as the Lord's personal umbrella, resting place, and clothing. Let us eternally worship that great personality, Sri Nityananda Chandra, who freely grants the association of Sri Gaurangadev, who is none other than Lord Krishna.
Angsharya Kirashai Sakala Bhuvanapa Sarva Jivantarasto Yova Garbadoshai Dasha Shatabadano Veda Suktar Vijita Brahmanda Shesha Garbha Prakriti Patir Jiva Sangha Shrayanga Sri Nityananda Chandram Bhaja Bhaja Satatam Gaura Krishna Pradamtam.
Lord Nityananda's partial manifestation as Kshirodakshai Vishnu functions as the preservation principle of the entire universal creation and is localized within every soul, Paramatma. Another eminent expansion of Lord Nityananda is Garbhodakshai Vishnu, that all-imposing figure whose thousands of heads are eulogized in the Vedic orations. Lord Nityananda's presence is further extended in his expansion as Karanadashayi Vishnu, the supplying principle encompassing unlimited universes. Lord Nityananda is the master of the Lord of material nature, Karanadashayi Vishnu, who is the shelter of all living entities. Let us eternally worship that great personality, Sri Nityananda Chandra, who freely grants the association of Sri Gaurangadev, who is none other than Lord Krishna.
Yasyangsa vyuha madhye vilasati parama vyomni sankarshanakya atanvan shurashatvam nikila harisukam Chetanam nilayacha jivahankara bhavaspada iti katita kutrachit jiva vajya Sri Nityananda Chandram bhaja bhaja satatam Gaura Krishna pradamtam.
Lord Nityananda's presence is further extended within the spiritual abode of Vaikuntha in his partial manifestation known as Sankarshan. In Vaikuntha, Lord Sankarshan performs spiritual pastimes which are fully transcendental, situated in pure goodness and all-pleasing to Lord Hari. As mentioned in the revealed scriptures, Lord Nityananda is the individual temperament of ego existing within the living entity, and he sometimes appears just like an ordinary living entity. Let us eternally worship that great personality, Sri Nityananda Chandra, who freely grants the association of Sri Gaurangadev, who is none other than Lord Krishna.
Yaschari vyuha madhye prabhavati sangano mulasan karshanakyo varatvat yam tad urdhe marupuri basati prabhavakyo vilasa sarvangshi ramanama Brajapuri Ramate Sanujo Yak Swarupe Sri Nityananda Chandram Bhaja Bhaja Satatam Gaura Krishna Pradamtam.
Lord Nityananda, who is the fountainhead of the primary Sankarshan, exists in full splendor separate from the original quadruple expansion and is known as Mula Sankarshan. That all-attractive personality, Sri Sankarshan, performs his wonderful pastimes in the spiritual realm in the regions known as Mathura and Dwarka. The transcendental city of Dwarka is situated just below the city of Mathura. It is in these spiritual places that Lord Sankarshan and his associates Aniruddha and Pradyumna exhibit their particular pastimes, scripturally known as Prabhava Vilas. Nityananda Prabhu, in the form of Lord Balaram, is the ultimate source of all incarnations and sportively plays in the charming village of Brajapura with his younger brother, Lord Krishna. Let us eternally worship that great personality, Sri Nityananda Chandra, who freely grants the association of Sri Gaurangadev, who is none other than Lord Sri Krishna.
Sri Krishna Premam Nama Parama Sukhamaya Kopya Chintya Padarto Yad Gandat Sajanogha Nigama Ban Humatam Moksham Apyakshipanti Kaivalya Swarja Seva Pradagana Iti Yashangata Premadatu Sri Nityananda Chandram Bhaja Bhaja Satatam Gaura Krishna Padamtam.
Pure, unalloyed love for Lord Krishna, which is inconceivable to all, embodies the most supreme and intense happiness. When the devotees of the Lord realize the joy of such love, they cast away the innumerable doctrines offered by the Vedas, including the soul's emancipation. Lord Nityananda openly bestows pure love, automatically including worship of the non-differentiated Brahman and service offered in Vaikuntha, which is dominated by opulence and grandeur. Let us eternally worship that great personality, Sri Nityananda Chandra, who freely grants the association of Sri Gauranga Dev, who is none other than Lord Sri Krishna.
Yo balye lilayaika parama madhuraya chekya chakrang garyam mata pitur janana mata nija suhridam hladayam chitta chakram tirtan vabrahma sarvanupahrita janako nyasina partitascha Sri Nityananda Chandram Bhaja Bhaja Satatam Gaura Krishna Pradamtam.
When Nityananda Prabhu was a small boy, he performed sweet and charming pastimes in the village of Ekachakra. His pastimes invoked the deepest heartfelt happiness in his mother, father, relatives, and close friends. Once, a renunciate arrived at the house of Nityananda and prayed to the boy's father for his son. Lord Nityananda was placed in the hands of the renunciate and left to visit the holy places of pilgrimage, wandering throughout the length and breadth of India. Let us eternally worship that great personality, Sri Nityananda Chandra, who freely grants the association of Sri Gauranga Dev, who is none other than Lord Krishna.
Brahman Brahman Chatirtan Jatimukata Mani Madhavendra Prasangat Labdolasa Pratiksha Prakatita Charitam Gauradama Jagama Sri Gaura Srinivasadi Birapi Yamaba Palaye Nandanasya Sri Nityananda Chandram Bhaja Bhaja Satatam Gaura Krishna Pradangtam.
Nityananda travelled from place to place with the crest jewel of the renounced order, Sri Madhavendra Puri. In the pure association of Madhavendra Puri, Lord Nityananda experienced the most joyful symptoms of ecstasy. After this, the Lord journeyed to Navadip, where he eagerly waited for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to reveal his benevolent nature to the world. Shortly following Nityananda's arrival, Lord Chaitanya Dev himself, in the company of Srinivas Pandit and Haridas Thakur, went to the house of Nandanacharya and found Nitai there. Let us eternally worship that great personality, Sri Nityananda Chandra, who freely grants the association of Sri Gauranga Dev, who is none other than Lord Krishna.
Praptagyo Gaura Chandra Di Kila Jana Ganodhara Nama Pradane Yat Prapya Dvo Surapo Kali Kalusha Hato Brataro Brahma Doityo Gadha Prema Prakashai Kriti Rutirava Puschapi Tavujahara Sri Nityananda Chandra Bhaja Bhaja Satatam Gaura Krishna Pradangtam.
Nityananda Prabhu was ordered by the golden moon, Sriman Mahaprabhu, to deliver the masses by the wide distribution of Lord Krishna's holy names. One evening, Lord Nityananda encountered those two drunken and sinful brothers, Jagai and Madhai, who were previously Brahmadaitya demons of the first order, acting under the devastating spell of Kali Yuga. Suddenly, Nitai was attacked by Madai, whereupon his body became smeared with blood. In response, Lord Nitai exhibited deep affection for the welfare of those two brothers and rescued them from their abominable condition. Let us eternally worship that great personality, Sri Nityananda Chandra, who freely grants the association of Sri Gauranga Dev, who is none other than Lord Krishna.
Sakshad Gauro Gananam Shirashiyad Avadutasya Kopina Kandam Sangdartun charidesha shava yavanavadu sprishta drishtopi bandya brahmadhyanam apiti prabhu parihrita kanam api svesta pita Sri Nityananda Chandra Bhaja Bhaja Satatam Gaura Krishna Pradangtam.
Lord Gauranga instructed his family members and followers to wear pieces of Lord Nityananda's kopin respectfully on their bodies. So pure and impeccable is the character of Nitai that even if he is seen holding the hand of a Javana's wife and carrying a bottle of wine, nonetheless he remains supremely worshipable by the great demigods such as Lord Brahma. Lord Nityananda is also the desirable object of those exalted devotees who can steal away the heart of the Lord. Let us eternally worship that great personality, Sri Nityananda Chandra, who freely grants the association of Sri Gauranga Dev, who is none other than Lord Krishna.
Uddartum Jnana Karmadya Pahata Charitan Gaura Chandro Yadosho Nyasam Kritva Tumaya Mrigam Manushritavan Grahayan Krishna Nama Tachchaye Vanu Davat Stala Jala Gahane Yopi Tashyeshta Cheshta Sri Nityananda Chandram Bhaja Bhaja Satatam Gaura Krishna Pradangtam.
Accepting the renounced order of life and distributing the Lord's holy names, Lord Gauranga chased after those souls who had been spoiled by the doctrines of dry argumentative logic and motivated fruitive activity. Like Lord Gauranga's own shadow, Nitai Prabhu accompanied the Lord over land and through rivers, waterways and jungles. In addition, Lord Nityananda is the desired goal of all Gauranga's endeavors. Let us eternally worship that great personality, Sri Nityananda Chandra, who can freely grant the association of that golden Lord Sri Gauranga Dev, who is none other than Lord Sri Krishna.
Sri Radha Prema Lubdho Divasanishi Tadasvada Mataika Lilo Gora Yan Charidesha Swaparikara Vritam Krishna Nama Pradatum Gore Badham Dodhoya Subhagagana Dhanam Gora Nama Prakamam Sri Nityananda Chandram Bhaja Bhaja Satatam Gora Krishna Pradangtam.
Day and night, Lord Chaitanya was intoxicated with the intense desire to taste the sweetness of Sri Radhika's divine love for Krishna. Sriman Mahaprabhu instructed Lord Nityananda and his associates to go out and profusely distribute the holy names of Lord Sri Krishna. However, Lord Nityananda instead plentifully distributed Lord Gauranga's name, the most precious fortune available to the living entities, with no impediment at all. Sri Nityananda Chandrang Bhaja Bhaja Satatang Gaura Krishna Pradangtam.
Sri Radha Krishna Lila Rasa Madhura Sudashvada Sudaika Murto Gore Shradham Jidham Bho Prabhu Parikara Samrat Prayaschadamesmim Ulangyangrim Hi Yasyakila Bhajakata Swapnabachchaiva Mitya Sri Nityananda Chandram Patita Sharana Dam Gauradam Tam Bhajeham.
O Nityananda Prabhu, Emperor amidst the personal associates of Sriman Mahaprabhu, kindly grant this fallen soul deep and resolute faith in that pure and divine figure of Sri Gauranga. Lord Gauranga's personality exclusively embodies the sweet nectar relished deep within the devotional rasas of Sri Sri Radha Krishna's pastimes. But if your lotus feet are overlooked, then all so-called devotional orations and prayers meant for the highest worship become false, like a dream. I worship you, that great personality, Nityananda Chandra, who openly bestows shelter to the most fallen souls, freely granting the association of Sri Gauranga Dev. By Srila Bhakti Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj, Srila Guru Maharaj.
Nitai pada kamala koti chandra sushitala.
Nitai pada kamala koti chandra sushitala.
Jai chaya jagata jurai.
Jai chaya jagata jurai.
Heno nitai bine bai Radha Krishna paite nai.
Heno nitai bine bhai Radha Krishna paite nai.
Vidha kori daro nitai arpai.
Vidha kori daro nitai arpai.
Se sambandha nahi jar Brita janma gelo tar.
Se sambandha nahi jar Brita janma gelo tar.
Se pasu boro durachar.
Se pasu boro durachar.
Nitai na bolilo muke Madilo samsara suke.
Nitai na bolilo muke Madilo samsara suke.
Vidya kule ki kori betar.
Vidya kule ki kori betar.
Ahankare mata hoya Nitai pada pasariya.
Ahankara mata hoya Nitai pada pasariya.
Asatyere satya kori mani.
Asatyere satya kori mani.
Nitaya koruna habe Braje Radha Krishna pabe.
Nitaya karuna have Braje Radha Krishna pabe.
Daro nitaya charana dukani.
Dharo nitaya charana dukani.
Nitaya charana satya tahara sevaka nitya.
Nitaya charana satya tahara sevaka nitya.
Nitai pada sada koro asha.
Nitai pada sada koro asha.
Narottama boro duki Nitai more koro suki.
Narottama boro duki Nitai more koro suki.
Rakoranga charane rapa.
Rakoranga charane rapa.
Nitai pada kamala koti chandra sushitala.
Nitai pada kamala koti chandra sushitala.
Jai chaya jagata jurai.
Jai chaya jagata jurai.
Krishna
Bol, Jai Gaura Hari Bol.
Jai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol.
Jai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol.
Jai Shri Balarama Avirbha Mahamahosavati Ki
Jai.
Jai. Shri Nityananda Ram Avirbha Mahamahosavati Ki Jai. Shri Rohini Nandan Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Saparikar Shri Sri Guru Gauranga Gandharva Govinda Sundar Jiu Ki Jai. Shri Giriraj Govardhan Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajaka Asatara Sata Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Saparikar Sri Sri Krishna-Balaram Ji Ki Jai. Sri Krishna-Balaram-mandir Ki Jai. Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sri Raman Reti Ki Jai. Sri Rupa-nuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. Sri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Sri Divakopal Pata Das Raghunath Sad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Sri Gupta Govardhan Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Jamuna Devi Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Om Vishnupad Vishvavarena Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Madhacharya Brinda Ki Jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Ranjan Madhusudan Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Vimalavaduta Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Sriman Paramananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Sri Bhakti Lalita Devi Dasi Ki Jai. Seva Brinda Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Brinda Ki Jai. Sri Balarama Avirbha Mahamahosavati Ki Jai. Nitai Go Premanande. Oh.
Jai.
And
And
we like to thank the devotees contributing to this celebration, Balaram's appearance day, Sri Krishna Janmashtami, and numerous other grand occasions that may happen over the next few days. Innumerable, auspicious
during the
occasions.
next month, the month of Hari Smaranam.
Hari Smaranam. So, Anjali, Devidasi and Vilas Prabhu, Ananda Leela, Ajitasha, we should say, Damodar Prabhu, Lavangalata, the Damodar, yes, Damodar Senior, Lavangalata, Malika and Gaur, Nityananda Das Prabhu, because they know Nityananda is doing everything actually. Gigi and other notable Chinese, I think Janavi and Chandrakanti and everyone. Tungavidya Devidasi. So many Devidasis and Prabhus and aspiring servitors and as Rupa Goswami says, when he's talking about the Nityananda under the influence of Varuni, so he's in this divinely intoxicated state, and he's calling Jamuna, and Jamuna's not coming, she's thinking, seeing him in this. And Rupa Goswami said at one point, Balaram says, do you understand, right now I could destroy all the innumerable universes and Krishna wouldn't be mad at me. In fact, it would liberate everyone. So then, and he, with his plow, starts dragging Jamuna toward him. Rupa Goswami said, in this intoxicated state, let us pray that Balaram will be merciful to us all. On that note, Jai Balaram, Jai Nitai, Nitai Go Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol. Jai Srila Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. And the wonderful gathering of devotees. Ki
Yeah.
Jai. Nitai Go Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.